Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside Out. We're going to look at the history of the ladder match. Some people would say the ladder match was designed maybe in the 1990s. But no, Jack's going to tell us where it started.
Stampede Wrestling, 1972, Dan Crawford versus Tor Kamada. The first first ladder match in history actually took place in 1972 in Canada with Stu Hart's Stampede Wrestling. One of Stampede's wrestlers, Dan Crawford, was a fledgling star looking to find a more prominent place on Hart's roster. Stu Hart was always willing to listen to new ideas from his talent, and one day in 72, Crawford approached Stu Hart with an idea of his own. The idea was to challenge a guy to get in the ring, Crawford told the Cochrane Times in 2019. I would hang a bag of money from the light and put a ladder outside. I would say that if he wants to fight, he has to come in, fight me, get the ladder, climb up, and get the money. We hung it like a bone for a dog. It was the idea of dangling the money there. The greed and the bad guy's eyes was the storyline. On September 27th, 1972, Crawford finally got that match when he faced Tor Kamada in the first ever ladder match in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. The use of the ladder would go on to become a staple gimmick with Stampede Wrestling, with rising young star Bret Hart having a few of his own, including a 1981 ladder match against Dynamite Kid, and in 1983 against Bad News Allen, later Bad News Brown in the WWF, shortly before he headed to the WWF himself.
Kendo Nagasaki, UK, mid-70s. During that year in 1972, Kendo Nagasaki, the character portrayed by English wrestler Peter Thorntonley, I hope I got that right, toured Canada, working a lengthy run through Stampede Wrestling. Upon his return to the UK, he brought the concept of the ladder match to British wrestling, having multiple ladder matches in the UK starting in the mid-70s. His 1986 disco ladder match, I would love to see that, against Clive Myers in 1986 remains one of the best remembered matches.
By the way, this Kendo Nagasaki, I guess, or however you say his name, that is not the one we believe Kendo, that would be the Japanese wrestler. This guy wore a mask that had and we'll pop up a picture.
Like a target.
Yeah, like a target.
Yeah.
This guy was a very interesting wrestler, and you can watch him. That actually, one of the ladder matches are actually on YouTube.
Is it the disco ladder match? I want to see this disco ladder match with strobe lights or what?
It could have been. It could have been that match. I don't know, but very interesting. He was a very interesting wrestler. If you get the opportunity, look him up. The next one would have been AWA 1980. Dino Bravo against Jerry Crusher Blackwell. Vern Gagnon's American Wrestling Association was the first major in North America to pick up on the ladder concept when Jerry Crusher Blackwell faced off against Dino Bravo in a ladder match in May of 1980. The two would have several ladder matches that year, and in 1986, Blackwell had another ladder match against Colonel De Beers.
And then Dusty Rhodes in the NWA was a man who loved his gimmick matches, and he brought the ladder to multiple promotions in the 1980s. According to CageMatch.net, his first ladder match was with Championship Wrestling from Florida in 1982 against Jimmy Garvin. And in 87, he brought the match to Mid-Atlantic, where he fought against Tully Blanchard during the Great American Bash Tour. He also upped the game that year, making it a barbed wire ladder match, as the American Dream's feud with the Four Horsemen got bloody.
Let me ask y'all a question. Y'all remember that?
I don't.
I do not remember that.
I do not remember it. So if you're watching this and you have some proof of these matches, please send it to us. I'm not for sure. I'm pretty sure they had them because they are in the list of matches. Maybe they just never showed any of these things on television. All right, Rodney.
All right, the next one came out the WWE in 1992. It's Bret Hart against Shawn Michaels. While most think of WrestleMania 10's match between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon in 1994 was the first ladder match in the WWF, the first one was actually held 2 years prior. Bret Hart had been pitching the ladder concept to Vince McMahon a few months in the early 1990s, and in 1992, Vince finally gave Bret his green light. Hart would face off against Shawn Michaels on July the 21st, 1992 in an episode of WWF's Wrestling Challenge, and is the first ever WWF ladder match. In 1994, Shawn Michaels versus Raze Ramon in WrestleMania 10. While the ladder matches have been utilized in professional wrestling for 22 years at this point, arguably no ladder match prior had the impact of the industry as the WWF Intercontinental Championship ladder match at WrestleMania 10 at Madison Square Garden between Shawn Michaels and Raze Ramon. It still remains a benchmark for many wrestlers who contend in these types of matches, and still holds as a classic encounter by the two stars hitting their strides.
New Japan Pro Wrestling's first ladder match was in 2007. Japan has a long resisted gimmick matches, but outside of the hardcore promotions that began to pop up in the 1980s. It was International Wrestling Association of Japan that brought the ladder match to Japan in 1995 in a match between
Soji
Nakamaki and the Cup Keeper. You know, wait a minute now. Didn't that say? Oh, it said New Japan Pro Wrestling's first ladder match was 2007. All right, that was just out. that must supposed to be underneath here. But anyway, 1995. They had one on IWA. New Japan Pro Wrestling would have its first ladder match in 2007, and a triple threat between Manabu Nakakishi. Well, I'm just going to kill these names.
And Hiroshi Tanahashi.
All right. Versus Toru. Is that how you say that?
Mm-hmm.
At New Japan Pro Wrestling's WrestleLand on May 1st, although it wouldn't become normal in the company. They would have another ladder match in June of 2016 with Michael England defeating Kenny Omega for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship at New Japan Pro Wrestling Dominion in a ladder match.
Okay. In 2005, at WrestleMania 21 in Los Angeles, WWE held its first Money in the Bank match featuring Edge, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Shelton Benjamin, Kane, and Christian. The new concept ladder match was won by Edge. Today, the ladder match has become a staple of professional wrestling, used across the board from smaller promotions up to majors like WWE, AEW, Impact, Ring of Honor, and more. And it all began when a rising star in Stampede Wrestling was trying to find a way to help his own career and help a struggling Stampede Wrestling find a new audience.
Very interesting about the ladder match. I'm not a big fan of the ladder match. You know, maybe it's done too often now. But when you go back and look at the most famous one, Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels, you have to go back and watch that match and know that it was put together very, very good. Have both of y'all watched this?
Yes, I think we watched that whole show. Yes,
very good match, and they put it together so good. The ladder match. That's the history of the ladder match. If you enjoyed this video, give us the big thumbs up. Subscribe to the page if you haven't already. Over 300 videos available for you to watch. And hit that notification bell. That's easy for me to remember and say. And share the video. Until the next video, on behalf of Rodney West, Jack Lord, I'm Brett West. And we'll see you again right here on Pro Wrestling Inside Now.